D.A.R.E curriculum is a living document. Some of you may know that or not. We're constantly growing and changing and developing to stay up with the times, the requests from school districts, from D.A.R.E officers. We've set the standard for a law enforcement officer in the classroom since 1983. Today I'm going to talk to you about that D.A.R.E officer on campus. D.A.R.E is not just a drug prevention program. We're like an umbrella. Let's see if I can get this thing to work. And we do more than just teach drug prevention. In fact, somebody out there in the audience probably knows of an example of a D.A.R.E officer, what they've done outside of the classroom. Valentine's Day, Elmira High School in New York. A student came with a .22 Ruger pistol, a sawed-off shotgun, 18 homemade bombs. Deputy Robert Hurley had taught this student 6 years earlier. Other students that were in Hurley's class told him about what this kid was up to, and Deputy Hurley confronted this student. He was able to arrest him without incident. Hurley said, "I believe that when I made eye contact with the suspect, the fact that he saw a familiar face made him think about what could happen. I know that half the student body, and they know me because I'm in the schools, is probably why those students came forward." El Cajon, California, D.A.R.E officer engages in a gun battle with a student and stops what could have been a major tragedy. Houston, Texas, a D.A.R.E officer gets shot by an angry parent as the officer protects the students. A 12-year-old girl fights off an abductor and credits her D.A.R.E officer with success. And I can go on and on and on and on. They happen all the time. We were the pioneers of officer-student relationships. I'm going to give you a little history of how we got into this business of education and law enforcement. When we pioneered this D.A.R.E program in 1983, and I was fortunate to be part of that group of 10 people that went out there in the field. I've been playing at D.A.R.E for 24 years now. We were on the threshold of a new community-based policing that we really didn't know the extent of it. Getting to our citizens during their formative years, parents no longer threatened, "I'm going to tell the police if you don't behave yourself." Children now had a personal relationship with law enforcement and saw them as role models. Many young people who entered into the career of law enforcement did so because of their D.A.R.E officer. We entered a whole new era of law enforcement in 1974. One of my first assignments when I came into LAPD was to go undercover in the high schools. That first year, we arrested over 350 students who were dealing drugs. There were 11 of us that went into 17 schools. Every school principal said before that, "We do not have a problem with drugs in our school." It was an eye-opener for the world. And this was Chief Gates' really early awareness of the importance of having an officer in the classroom. His second attempt in law enforcement was the police role in government, where he put a uniformed officer in a high school to talk to students about career law enforcement. And it was to raise the awareness of what the job was all about. The relevant issue that came out of it was the bond between the students and the officer. And all of a sudden we saw, wow, there's some value here to having an officer in the classroom with students. And the biggest thing was they developed respect and trust. And that was a big thing. In 1983, Chief Daryl Gates went to Dr. Harry Handler of the LA Unified School District and said, "We need to do something about the drugs in our schools. I have a group of people that would be great teaching your kids." And D.A.R.E was created. It was the first officer-led drug prevention program in the world. The growth of D.A.R.E was phenomenal, and we have to credit Chief Daryl Gates because at the time he was the president of the Major City Chiefs organization, and he went to the chiefs and said, "I've got this idea, and I think it's going to be great." And many chiefs sent officers to Los Angeles to be trained. And although drug prevention was the primary purpose of D.A.R.E, the benefits of the officer connecting with kids many times overshadowed the main purpose. 3 years ago, I was at a convention, and they were talking about people who had been very successful in their careers, and this young lady stood up and talked about her success with Warner Brothers and her development of some animation. And afterwards, I bumped into her and I said, "Wow, you work for Warner Brothers?" I said, "Warner Brothers was one of the very first organizations that helped sponsor the D.A.R.E program and created our first video that we used in the classroom." And she looked at me and go, wow, I had D.A.R.E 19 years ago. I said, wow, what school was that? She told me it was Elysian Heights Elementary School. I said, that's coincidental. I said, I was at that school. She said, did you know Officer Gilliam? She went on to tell me that she never used drugs because of what she learned in her D.A.R.E program. So I was so impressed, I thought, wow, what an event. You know, that respect and trust of the curriculum and of the officer. Christopher Commission, who knows what the Warren Christopher Commission is all about? It changed the face of law enforcement. In 1992, we had some riots based on the acquittal of officers in the Rodney King situation. And out of that commission's report, and I quote, one of the results of the study was, D.A.R.E was a major achievement promoting substantial goodwill toward LAPD. Now, I'm not going to take credit for this, or D.A.R.E's not going to take credit for this, but there was something interesting that came out of it. That the average age of the rioters is 5 years older than the average age of the rioters during the Watts riots in the 60s. Now, those students, those young adults, had D.A.R.E for 8 years in South Central Los Angeles. Maybe I'll take credit for that one, huh? So what have we learned today? D.A.R.E officers create a safer school environment which promotes better learning. In a very recent survey of the safest cities, which they release every year, we went through that list. Every city that was in the top had the D.A.R.E program. The cities at the bottom did not have the D.A.R.E program. I'm not saying one has anything, just a coincidence, but it looks good on our resume. I love D.A.R.E, it's become my life. You know, people get callings for ministry or whatever. I have my calling for the D.A.R.E program, and I'm proud of it. I think what it does in our community is amazing. We were real lucky to get it started. I think Chief Gates had a great idea when he came up with it. Go to our website, check it out. There are ways to start a program. What we offer for the first year, if you haven't had D.A.R.E, we offer free workbooks for the first year for all of your students out of D.A.R.E America. We have state coordinators in every state. We have regional directors over them from D.A.R.E America. And just remember, D.A.R.E means safer schools. There are a lot of things we've discussed here at this conference, but D.A.R.E means safer schools. Thank you very much for your time.